Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you everyone for joining us for the Bullhead City Police Department's annual awards program, where we recognize not only our officers but also civilian employees for their dedication and commitment to excellence in our community. We will also be recognizing today several citizens in our community for their commitment to helping others and improve public safety as well. But before we get started, I'd like to introduce and acknowledge some dignitaries who are in attendance this morning. We have Bullhead City Vice Mayor and former Police Chief Rodney Head, Councilmember Dan Alfonso, Councilmember Juan Lizarraga, Councilmember Rich Letman, and Councilmember Tammy Ring. And behind them in the next row, I'd like to acknowledge Assistant to the City Manager, Eddie Kajara, Assistant to the City Manager, Travis Pruitt, City Attorney, Gun Emery, City Clerk, Sue Stein, and Human Services Director, Jeff Tipton. And I'd now like to turn it over to Chief of Police, Robert Treves, to get started with the ceremony.
Thank you, Emily. First, I would just like to say thank you all for coming. It's very nice to look at the crowd here and see that we're a packed crowd. Everybody's here to honor our members for the police department, and that's just amazing to see, so thank you for that. I want to thank the council and city staff for being here. Your unwavering support is crucial to our success in the mission that we have before us. The military and the church have been around for millennia and have shaped modern law enforcement belief systems in instilling values like duty and honor. But law enforcement is not out trying to conquer an army or trying to be an occupying force. Rather, our mission is to keep our community safe and to serve our citizens. Some refer to law enforcement as a calling. The dual nature of serving as well as protecting is indeed a unique one. On any given day, an officer may be serving the community by being with children for Shop with a Cop, educating them in bicycle safety, or engaging in citizen education for things that are troubling their neighborhoods. Later on that evening, the officer may be forcibly taking a criminal or a intoxicated driver off the street. This is much like the dual nature spoken of in Nehemiah 4:17. Those who built on the wall and those who carried burdens loaded themselves so that with one hand they worked construction, with the other held a weapon. Freedom and choice are resonating aspects of both organized religion and the military in a free society. Choosing to serve is also true for police officer. Calvin Coolidge once said, "The duties which a police officer owes to the state are of a most exacting nature. No one is compelled to choose the profession of police officer, but having chosen it, everyone is obliged to live up to the standards of its requirements. To join in that high enterprise means the surrender of much individual freedom." As police officers, we must hold ourselves to higher standards in order to truly serve the public with integrity. Police officers are referred to as guardians, and that comes from Plato's Republic. Plato described the guardians as being noble, humble, living their lives according to the higher standards, without a desire for personal gain, and a genuine sense of duty and service to others. Law enforcement is not easy, and it's not for the faint of heart. It's inherently dangerous and exposes its members to things that no human should ever have to experience. There are always those in society that will second guess the police officer from the comfort of their environment on actions that the officer only had split seconds to make. Theodore Roosevelt, who some don't know, was the New York City Police Commissioner from 1895 to 1897 before he was President of the United States, spoke about this Monday morning quarterbacking of police officers when he said this: "In any moment of decision, the best thing you can do is the right thing. The next best thing is the wrong thing. and the worst thing you can do is nothing. Now, Roosevelt certainly wasn't advocating for wrong action. He was simply recognizing the realities of law enforcement, how dangerous it is, and how you need to make split-second decisions in tense, uncertain, and rapidly evolving situations. To this point, George Washington said, "I shall not be deprived of comfort in the worst event if I retain consciousness of having acted to the best of my judgment." Because the media and certain members of society are always looking for the few bad apples in our profession, it's important that we recognize and honor our men and women who do extraordinary things at times and daily do amazingly difficult tasks that not every citizen is capable of doing. Theodore Roosevelt said, "No man is worth his salt who is not ready at all times to risk his body, to risk his well-being, and to risk his life in a great cause." I'm honored to be here today to recognize the men and women of the Bullhead City Police Department for doing their part in this great cause. Thank you very much.
It's my honor to be here with you today, to honor and give commendation to those to whom honor is due. I'm thankful to be a part of this ceremony today. But let us pray and let's give thanks to the one to whom all blessings come. Lord Jesus, we come humbly before you today, asking your blessings upon our gathering and to honor those who have chosen to serve us and our community. We know that you have taught us that it is better to give than to receive, that it is better to serve than to be served. So we come on this special time and this special day to honor those to whom honor is due. Father, it is with a thankful heart that we honor the men and women of our police department today, to honor those that have chosen to serve us and our community. We are thankful for their daily service, dedication, and sacrifice. We are thankful that we can sleep safely in our homes at night because of their watchfulness and diligence. We are thankful for their dedication in protecting our property, our homes, our families, and from those that would do us harm. Father, we are a grateful people, and that you have blessed us with our dedicated men and women of law enforcement and those that support them. Dear God, we thank you that we have this opportunity to honor them, to show a small token of our gratitude. Let us all leave this place with a renewed awareness of their service and sacrifice, and let them know that we are thankful for their labors. And now, even as we bestow upon them our thanks and our tokens of gratitude for their service, bless them, strengthen them, and let them know and feel the great strength of your presence. And we ask this in Jesus' great name. Amen.
Good morning again, ladies and gentlemen. I know you've heard speeches, and I can't follow the chief's speech, but it really is an honor to be standing amongst so many amazing men and women in our community. And I'm proud to be asked back a second year to do this. I didn't think last year that I would be asked back to be the Master of Ceremonies, but I quickly realized that Lieutenant Williams' opinion is irrelevant in this department, so here I am. So let's get started. The Department Safe Driver Award. This award is presented to officers assigned to the patrol traffic functions who maintain a superior on-duty driving record that is free of preventable accidents. The 5-year safe driver, a uniform ribbon shall be awarded to all eligible officers who have achieved 5 consecutive years without a preventable accident. Corporal Daniel Crawford. Corporal Michael Santa Rosa. Officer Jordan Butterfield. Officer Noah Carter. And Officer Joseph Moorbridge.
Good job, Joe.
I've seen Corporal Crawford back in a trailer, so I'm very surprised that you've been granted this award.
Yes.
10-year Safe Driver Award. A uniform ribbon shall be awarded to all eligible officers who have achieved 5 consecutive years without a preventable accident. A gold star shall be authorized for the ribbon either 5 years after its commission or 5 years after the last preventable accident. Sergeant Edward Mooney, Jr. Meritorious Citizenship Award. The Meritorious Citizenship Award is presented to the individuals and organizations that have assisted the department in providing a noteworthy service to the city of Bullhead City. Will Maurice Trudell please come to the stage? Mr. Trudell is an avid supporter of the Bullhead City Police Department and has demonstrated his support by his contributions to multiple community events hosted by the department. Upon learning that there was a need, Mr. Trudell generously donated bicycles, accessories, and helmets for the Bullhead Bicycle Safety Rodeo. His donation greatly helped with the success of the event, and he really helped stretch the budget to make the event enjoyable for the children and families who attended. The Fraternal Order of Police Santa Sleigh program is another very popular event and is greatly anticipated and well attended every year. The project is a labor of love that is completely staffed with volunteers, from the construction of the sleigh to Santa and Mrs. Claus, and all the elves that assist with the sleigh. Mr. Trudell graciously offered his business space and amenities for the event. In addition, he supplied good food and gifts at his expense and volunteered his time at the Santa Sleigh stop. Mr. Trudell, your generosity and support of the Bullhead City Police Department and our community are commendable and greatly appreciated. Thank you for your support and generous donation of your time and resources. Christina Brazel, Arizona Department of Child Services. Please come to the stage. Ms. Brazel is the Bullhead City Area In-Home Unit Supervisor for the Arizona Department of Child Safety. She is being recognized today for her efforts to build and maintain a strong partnership with Bullhead City Police Department. Her efforts have enabled law enforcement and AZDCS personnel to co-investigate cases involving child victims, ensuring through investigation successful prosecution and rehabilitation for families and victims. Ms. Brazel is respected as one of the area's leading experts in the field and passionately advocates for children crime victims. She consistently goes above and beyond to ensure these young victims and their families have a voice and receive justice. Her knowledge and partnership with our department is invaluable. Ms. Brazel is an asset to our community, and we are thankful for all your efforts to build and nurture a professional relationship with our police department. Will the following please come to the stage? Tyler Anderson, Joseph Revilla, Andy Yanez Diaz. Mr. Anderson, Mr. Revilla, and Mr. Yanez Diaz are being recognized today for their involvement with an incident that took place at the fuel station at Sam's Club. On April 18, 2023, at approximately 3:30 in the afternoon, a gentleman in a black truck arrived at the gas pumps. A short time later, the gas pump attendant saw that the man had not exited his vehicle and was now slumped over his vehicle. A call was made to 911, and the unresponsive man was removed from his vehicle by Sam's Club employees so that CPR could be initiated. Mr. Anderson, Mr. Revilla, and Mr. Yanez Diaz began performing CPR as instructed by dispatch until Bullhead Fire arrived and took over life-saving efforts. In a world where people are more inclined to document tragedy on their cell phones than to get involved and help, you are all commended for your life-saving actions. Mr. Anderson, Mr. Revilla, and Mr. Yanez, your actions are admirable, and thank you for life-saving efforts and your willingness to get involved. The Outstanding Citizenship Award. This award is presented to other individuals and organizations that have assisted the department in providing a significant service to the city. Will John Hermosillo please come to the stage? On the morning of March 25th, 2023, officers were attempting to locate a man for a trespass and criminal damage call. Based on the description of the man from the callers, officers believed him to be someone they knew from prior contacts with an active warrant for his arrest. The man was located a short time later at a fast food restaurant. Police recognized this man from previous contacts and were aware of his reputation for fighting with officers and resisting arrest. When officers attempted to place him under arrest, he resisted and a tussle ensued. Mr. Hermosillo had stopped to get something to eat and saw that the man was being combative and was not complying with the officer's orders. Mr. Hermosillo did not hesitate to get involved and assist the officer by helping to hold the man down so that he could be handcuffed. Thank you for coming to the aid of our officer. Your support and assistance is greatly appreciated.
Good job, John.
Should I take a guess at who said that? The Citizens Medal of Valor, presented to individuals whose actions in preserving or attempting to preserve the life of another were courageous and worthy of recognition. It should be noted and recognized before the Citizens Medal of Valor recipients are called to receive their awards that these people are citizens just hanging out at home, driving their cars, just out living a life, and having no idea that they are about to be faced with a life or death situation, that they will be forced to make the split-second decisions to get involved, to act, to come to the aid of a neighbor or stranger in need and at risk of their own safety. Police officers receive training to prepare them for what they are responding to and provided with tools. They have very difficult jobs, deal with horrible situations, and often see the worst in people. They mentally prepare themselves for what their call is responding to, so although horrible, they are not surprised by what they encounter. These citizens were nominated by police officers who recognized the magnitude of the emergency situations they were faced with and the courage it took for them to act. Will Matthew Hughes please come to the stage? On June 16, 2023, Mr. Hughes heard a loud commotion at his neighbor's residence. Nothing could have prepared him for what he saw when he went to investigate. Mr. Hughes discovered his neighbors under brutal attack by a man armed with a knife. He knew he had to act quickly and make the decision to retrieve his firearm to end the attack. In an effort to stop the man without using lethal force, Mr. Hughes fired a warning shot which proved ineffective, and Mr. Hughes then returned his weapon on the subject, which ended the attack. Officers quickly responded and placed the attacker under arrest. Mr. Hughes, you were faced with a horrible situation and had to make some very difficult decisions in a short amount of time. Your bravery and heroic actions are admirable. On behalf of the members of the Bullhead City Police Department, the officials of the City of Bullhead City, and members of our community, it is our distinct honor to present you with our department's highest award given to a civilian, the Citizens Medal of Valor. Thank you. Will the following individuals please come to the stage? Sarah Grimard, Daniel Johnson, and Hugh Rosette. On the evening of July 28, 2023, dispatch began receiving calls of a vehicle versus pedestrian collision. Initial reports indicated that the driver fled the scene immediately after the collision. The officers who responded to this call will be recognized later in the ceremony for their actions. When officers arrived on scene, they encountered numerous civilians providing medical aid to a severely injured pedestrian. The pedestrian had significant trauma, including a head injury and lower leg amputation. The pedestrian was losing a significant amount of blood and was unresponsive. After witnessing the collision, Ms. Grimard, Mr. Johnson, and Mr. Rosette recognized the need for the immediate medical assistance and stopped to render aid. At this time, the scene was chaotic, traffic control had not been established, and without regard for their own safety, they ran into the roadway to help. The three of them worked in concert with a first aid kit retrieved from a vehicle and obtained a belt to use as a tourniquet to stop the profuse bleeding. Grimard, Johnson, and Rosette remained after officers arrived and continued to help as officers worked to deploy a first aid specific tourniquet to supplement the makeshift tourniquet already in use. Officers recognized the pedestrian was rapidly declining and began administering chest compressions until paramedics arrived. Through the valiant efforts of everyone involved, the pedestrian was transported to a local hospital where he was stabilized and later transported to a trauma hospital. Emergency room physicians credited the first aid treatment rendered on scene with improving the pedestrian's chance of survival and allowing for advanced medical care for his injuries. On behalf of the members of the Bullhead City Police Department, the officials of the City of Bullhead City, and members of our community, it is our distinct honor to present you with our department's highest award given to civilians, the Citizens Medal of Valor. Unit citations. This award may be presented to a group of department members who performed meritoriously as a team unit. The following individuals please come to the stage. Christina Cortezi, Lead Animal Care and Welfare Officer and Forensic Specialist, and Michael Larson, ACW Officer. On the morning of Halloween 2022, Animal Care and Welfare officers arrived at the shelter and discovered 2 dogs tied to the fence with a note saying that one of the dogs was not friendly. ACW staff had to use catch poles to remove the dogs from the fence as they could not safely get close enough to the dogs to free them. Fortunately, the dogs were not able to escape on their own and run at large. Security camera footage showed a man and a woman exit their vehicle, let the dogs out, and ultimately make the decision to abandon their dogs after realizing the shelter was closed. No attempts were made to contact shelter staff, although contact information was clearly visible on the front door to the shelter. As mentioned earlier, it was Halloween and ACW officers observed the woman appeared to be wearing a dress uniform or a Mexican restaurant for work, or was dressed as a Mexican dancer, or possibly a pirate for Halloween. Excuse me. That's just a very vague, so anyways, as mentioned earlier, ACW officers decided to drive by a few Mexican restaurants and see if they were able to locate the vehicle. Eventually, they found a vehicle parked in a strip mall that matched one in the grainy videos. When officers entered the business where the woman from the video dressed as a pirate worker, she immediately knew what they were there for and admitted to abandoning the dogs. She returned to the shelter to complete paperwork and make proper arrangement for her dogs. It was cruel and irresponsible for the dog's owner to abandon their animals without food, water, or shelter. And although not intended, tying aggressive dogs to the fence put ACW officers and the public at risk. Thank you for your efforts to locate the owners of the dogs and educate them on the correct way to surrender animals. We are pleased to present this award. Will the following individuals please come to the stage? Lieutenant Kenny Williams, Sergeant Raymond Lamone, Corporal Jesus Alvarez, Detective Brandon Grass, Detective Robin Holstrom, Detective Eric Teague, Christina Cortezi, Forensic Specialist, Megan Falkenham, Forensic Specialist, Emily Fromelt, Public Information Officer and Investigative Assistant, Kathleen O'Brien, Investigative Assistant, Scott Sharp, Civilian Police Investigator, and Lori Ward, Detective Secretary. This unit citation is being presented to Bullhead City Police Department personnel assigned to the General Investigation Section for the work that was done to solve 5 homicide and 2 attempted homicide cases within a 7-month period. 2 of the 5 cases were double homicide investigations. Several of the events occurred within weeks or days of each other. All of these cases were solved within 1 week or less. The expedient resolution of these homicide and attempted homicide cases required a team effort with full participation from everyone assigned to the section. These investigations required numerous search warrants, press releases, evidence collection, and gathering, hours of surveillance and interviews. The drive behind their success is teamwork and the placement of personnel in their area of expertise. This is an excellent example of a team of professionals working together and supporting each other, which was evident in every incident. Unfortunately, crime did not stop while these horrible events were happening, and they had their normal caseload and assignments to complete. During the same time period, they received over 750 assigned cases, conducted 77 search warrants, registered over 130 sex offenders, processed 70 crime scenes, and over 550 pieces of evidence. Through your combined talents and efforts, you quickly solved each case. All of the suspects were arrested and charged for their crimes. Your hard work did not go unnoticed. Thank you for your tireless work you do, the time spent away from your families, and the commitment to your community. Will the following individuals please come to the stage? Sergeant Raymond Lamone, Sergeant Richard Rieger, Corporal Carlos Diaz Torres, Corporal Michael Santa Rosa, Officer Scott Grigsby, Officer John Jimenez, Officer Emilio Marin, Officer Keyshawn Walker, Jolynn McCabe, Senior Emergency Services Dispatcher, Laura Reyes, Emergency Services Dispatcher, Maria Rodriguez, former Emergency Services Dispatcher and Records Clerk. Police officers and dispatchers receive countless hours of training to prepare for all types of emergency situations, the what-ifs. A perpetual state of planning for worst and hoping for the best. This is especially true for members of the Tactical Response Unit. On the evening of January 27, 2023, dispatch began receiving calls regarding a disorderly subject in an RV park. Calls soon escalated from a disorderly subject to an armed subject to a barricaded subject. It is calls like this that all the planning and training are for. Dispatch personnel are the first point of contact. They are tasked with gathering and relaying accurate and timely information from the responding officers. Often in these situations, the dispatcher is fielding information from multiple sources. It is imperative for the officer's safety and the information that the information is accurate and relayed quickly. They do not take this responsibility lightly and somehow manage to sound calm, while being acutely aware of the importance of their role to the officer's safety and the safety of our citizens. Shift change occurred during the incident, which required the initial dispatcher to have to thoroughly brief her replacement on the events to make sure that nothing was missed, and the monitoring of the situation and relay of information remained fluid. Amid the chaos, dispatch continued to answer incoming calls, including a call involving a police officer administering CPR at another location. Members of the Tactical Response Unit responded and set up position to detain, secure, or respond to any life-endangering acts conducted by the subject. During the incident, the subject fired numerous shots in the direction of officers. None of the officers were hit by a man, but a man in a nearby RV was struck in the leg. Dispatchers were able to relay the information to officers who were able to render aid and get him to additional medical treatment. Over the course of several hours, officers worked in unison to get the subject to peacefully surrender without escalating the situation. Despite their efforts, he would not comply with the officer's commands, and multiple firefights ensued between the subject and TRU members. Several rounds were within inches of hitting officers. Throughout the ordeal, officers remained calm and focused on the task at hand and worked together to resolve the issue. Ultimately, the decision was made to deploy less lethal ammunition and gas rounds. Shortly after midnight the next morning, the subject surrendered, putting an end to the standoff. Thank you for your bravery and combined efforts to bring a peaceful resolution to this call.
Stop limping, Carlos.
Will the following individuals please come to the stage? Sergeant Thomas Canfield, Corporal Michael Santa Rosa, Officer Angel Gomez, Officer Larry Hernandez, Officer Zachary Madarang, and Officer Sandoval. I already made a couple of mistakes. On March 31st, 2023, B Swings received multiple reports of a group of subjects shoplifting from multiple retail stores. Officers located the vehicle involved, conducted a thorough investigation, including contacting multiple victims inside and outside of Bullhead City, and identified which suspects were involved in each case. Through the efforts, officers were able to return more than $2,400 in merchandise to the victims and made 4 arrests for organized retail theft, felony shoplifting, possession of dangerous drugs, unlawful flight, and a parole violation warrant. The officers involved completed a detailed investigation on an extremely busy squad and were able to recover stolen property and return it to the victims. Thank you for your hard work and determination. We are pleased to present this unit citation.
Can we tell you something?
Will the following individuals please come to the stage? Sergeant Sean Brooks, Officer Joshua Allen, Officer Jason Biggers, Officer John Jimenez, Officer Donald Lucian, Kimberly Andrew, Emergency Services Dispatcher, Jolynn McCabe, Senior Emergency Services Dispatcher, Joan Powers, Animal Care and Welfare Officer, Maria Rodriguez, Emergency Services Dispatcher and Records Clerk, and Josie Volk Emmert, Senior Emergency Services Officer. On April 30th, 2023, dispatch received a frantic call from a couple that had been attacked by their dog. The couple was trapped inside their house and couldn't get past the dogs in the yard to escape for help. The dispatcher immediately began gathering information and instructing the injured man and woman in life-saving first aid until medical help could arrive. Due to the reported severity of their injuries, dispatch personnel began making calls to local hospitals and medical air transportation. When police officers and ACW personnel arrived, they were confronted by 2 large black dogs. Both dogs were growling, barking, and charging the fence towards the officers. Several unsuccessful attempts were made to restrain the dogs using catch poles. Medical personnel on site could not get to the couple who were bleeding profusely until the dogs were contained. ACW Officer Powers, with the assistance of Officer Jimenez and Allen, cut the lock on the gate and entered the yard to capture the dogs. One dog fled from the officers to another part of the yard, and the aggressive dog was backed into a corner, which allowed medics to enter the home and tend to the victims. The aggressive dog was eventually caught via a catch pole and transported to ACW for quarantine. Both victims were rushed to local hospitals and later flown to a trauma center in Las Vegas for further medical treatment. The combined efforts of Bullhead City Police Department Dispatch, Patrol, and ACW personnel, Bullhead City Fire Department, Classic Air Medical, and CareFlight Air Methods personnel were instrumental in saving the lives of the couple. Thank you for your professionalism and partnership. This is a perfect example of public safety professionals working together during a crisis. This is teamwork at its best. Will the following individuals please come to the stage? Sergeant Thomas Canfield, Sergeant Raymond Lamone, Sergeant Alberto Otero, Corporal Jesus Alvarez, Corporal Joel Bachman, Corporal Carlos Diaz Torres, Corporal Trent Peterson, Detective Brandon Grass, Detective Eric Teague, Officer Joshua Allen, Officer Noah Carter, Officer Robert Chapman, Officer Andre Hernandez, Officer John Jimenez, Officer Donald Lucian, Officer Alexander Montez, Officer Kang Fawn, Officer Michael Sodero, Kimberly Andrew, Emergency Services Dispatcher, Christina Cortese, Forensic Specialist, Megan Falkenham, Forensic Specialist, Chase Davia Hartwick, Park Ranger, Maria Rodriguez, Emergency Services Dispatcher and Records Clerk, and Emilio Serrano, Senior Emergency Services Dispatcher. On June 5th, 2023, at approximately 10:40 p.m., a caller reported that a vehicle had driven by and fired several rounds towards a group of teenagers listening to music in the park. A 16-year-old male had been struck in the head and in the stomach. Dispatch advised officers that the reporting party was not going to wait for medical personnel. They were going to transport the victim to the hospital themselves. Officers quickly arrived at the park and worked to clear the bleachers, ramadas, and nearby buildings and lock down the crime scene. As the evening unfolded, multiple crime scenes would emerge due to the transport of the victim from the crime scene. This only added to the chaos. Detectives, officers, and forensic staff worked diligently to document and collect evidence from the site of the shooting, the vehicle used to transport the victim, and interview witnesses at the hospital. Through the course of the investigation, a 16-year-old male was identified as the shooter. Detectives learned that the shooter had ongoing issues with another juvenile in that group that he had shot into. The victim was reportedly not involved in any prior issues or conflict with the shooter and had not been the intended target. Within 4 days of the shooting, the juvenile shooter was identified and arrested for attempted homicide. 2 additional teenagers faced charges for acting as accomplices in the drive-by shooting and attempted homicide. A common theme in these situations is the worst seems to bring out our best. The level of teamwork and professionalism displayed when we, as an agency, are faced with horrible situations and crimes is incredible. The talents and training of each of you was an essential part of the remarkably fast and successful resolution of this case. Will the following individuals please come to the stage? Sergeant Thomas Canfield, Sergeant Raymond Lamone, Corporal Michael Santa Rosa, Detective Robin Holstrom, Detective Brandon Grass, Detective Eric Teague, Officer Zachary Madarang, Officer Larry Hernandez, Officer Angel Gomez, Officer Jason Harms II, Catherine Canfield Phoenix, Emergency Services Dispatcher, Christina Cortese, that's twice now. Forensic Specialist, Megan Falkenham, Forensic Specialist, Michael Larson, Animal Care and Welfare, Laura Reyes, Emergency Service Dispatcher, Darren Shorty, Emergency Services Dispatcher, and Josie Volk Emmerich, Senior Emergency Services Dispatcher. Earlier in this ceremony, Matthew Hughes was recognized for his efforts to end a vicious attack on his neighbors, which occurred on June 16, 2023. This award is being presented to recognize the combined efforts of everyone involved, from dispatch who took the initial call, to detectives who conducted the investigation, and everyone in between. The training, expertise, and talents of each individual bureau, section, and unit was instrumental in the professional manner this horrible incident was handled. Dispatch began receiving calls regarding a stabbing and a shooting. The callers were emotional and were providing conflicting information regarding where the incident was taking place. The dispatcher's ability to remain calm, comfort the caller, and get the information needed to send first responders to the correct address was incredible. They were quickly able to send officers and be their eyes and ears, providing them with pertinent information for their safety and to get help to the victim as soon as possible. Patrol officers were the first on scene. They found the suspect and one victim in the backyard. With little time to process the horrible scene that they encountered, they were able to quickly secure the stabbing suspect and provide medical care to the 2 victims. Amid this highly charged, chaotic scene, officers were also tasked with identifying the shooter, who was at a different location. Everyone worked together to secure the crime scene and tend to the victims until medical help arrived. They then switched gears to begin conducting interviews to compile valuable information for detectives. ACW arrived to retrieve a black lab from the property. Forensic personnel began photographing the scene, victims, and collecting evidence. Detectives arrived and began the painstaking task of putting all the pieces together to determine what had happened. All of you are to be commended for your professionalism, for putting your emotions aside and focusing on the work that needed to be done to get answers for the victim's family and restore a sense of security to the neighbors. Every one of you played an important role, and your efforts have not gone unnoticed. Officer William Valdez, please come to the stage. January 27th, 2023 was a very busy evening for the Bullhead City Police Department and was truly a when it rains it pours kind of night. While most of the department had been deployed to assist with an armed, barricaded subject call in an RV park, Officer Valdez responded to an assault call. Upon arrival, Officer Valdez was greeted by two men outside of the residence who told him that one of them had punched someone inside of the house after a confrontation. From the threshold, Officer Valdez could see a man standing by another man who was lying partially on a couch, and it was later determined that the man on the couch had been the recipient of the punch to the face. While speaking with the men, one of them announced that the man on the couch had stopped breathing. Officer Valdez contacted dispatch to request medical personnel, moved the man to the floor, and was able to locate a pulse, or was not able to locate a pulse, and see any evidence of breathing, and began performing chest compressions. Officer Valdez was able to restore breathing and move the man to the recovery position to maintain his breathing and airway until medics could arrive. Officer Valdez performed his duties to the highest degree of professionalism. The quick actions likely saved this man's life and prevented him from suffering a lifetime of health problems due to lack of oxygen to his brain and vital organs. Thank you for your professionalism and dedication to the Bullhead City Police Department and the health and safety of our citizens. Would Officer Angel Gomez and Larry Hernandez please come to the stage? On July 28, 2023, Officer Hernandez responded to a hit-and-run vehicle versus pedestrian accident with severe injuries. Upon arrival, Officer Hernandez quickly assessed the situation and found the roadway strewn with vehicle parts and a crowd gathered around the victim while 3 citizens worked on him. The force of the accident had amputated the man's leg below his knee, and he was bleeding profusely. The Good Samaritans had used a belt to slow the bleeding. Officer Hernandez was working to apply a medical-grade tourniquet to supplement what was already in place. Officer Gomez arrived a short time later and ran to help. In addition to the amputation, the man had a broken arm and had suffered serious trauma. The pedestrian was rapidly declining, and both officers put all their first aid and life-saving training to work to stabilize the man until he could receive critical medical care for his wounds. Officer Gomez administered chest compressions until paramedics arrived. Emergency room physicians credit the first aid rendered on scene to the pedestrian, with him being transported alive to the ER and later flown to Las Vegas for advanced medical care. Patrol officers are the first on scene. Most times they arrive before paramedics. The first aid and care that you provide is often the difference between life and death for the victims you encounter. In addition to wearing the badge and all that it entails, you are also tasked with triaging victims until medical personnel arrive. Thank you for all your efforts to give the pedestrian a fighting chance. It is comforting for our citizens to know that officers receive rigorous training and provide them in all sorts of situations. Will Officer Sean O'Connell and Colby Probst please come to the stage? Early on the morning of August 31st, 2023, a woman called 911 to report that she was woken up by a man banging on her door claiming that he had been stabbed. Officer Probst was the first to arrive on scene. As he approached the house, he could see bloody footprints leading up to the victim lying next to the front door. Officer Probst could see a deep laceration to his left calf, in addition to deep cuts on his hands, stomach, and back. It was evident the man had lost a lot of blood. Officer Probst got to work applying a tourniquet and asking the man about the attack and his attacker. Officer O'Connell arrived a short time later and assisted with applying the tourniquet and gathering information. It was determined that the victim had been fishing with a man he referred to as his fishing buddy at the river. The man became aggravated when the victim refused to call him by his preferred nickname. The man slashed the victim's vehicle tires and then turned the knife on him. The victim ran from the scene of the attack to the house for help, leaving a trail of blood. 4 days later, the attacker came to the police station for an interview and was ultimately arrested for aggravated assault. Hospital personnel advised that the tourniquet applied by Officer Probst and Officer O'Connell probably saved the man's life. This is another example of the efforts that Bullhead City police officers preventing the loss of life by implementing first aid. The law enforcement profession is constantly evolving, and police officers are forced to adapt to the changes and consistently rising to the challenge. Thank you for your willingness to evolve, train, and implement what you learn to keep our citizens and our community safe. Does anyone know what the preferred nickname was?
Cheddar Bob?
Well, it's gotta be weird to get that angry. Weren't you late to this? Okay. All right, moving on. Years of service awards. For 5 years of service, will the following individuals please come to the stage? Corporal Michael Santa Rosa, Officer Jordan Butterfield, Officer John Jimenez, Officer Joseph Morgridge, Kimberly Andrew, Emergency Services Dispatcher, Noe Lopez, Lead Animal Care and Welfare Officer, Stefan Lucier, Transport Officer, Jose Menendez, Transport Officer, and Scott Sharp, Police Civilian Investigator. Recognizing 10 years of service, Sergeant Sean Watson and Karen Clark, Senior Emergency Services Dispatcher. Recognizing 15 years of service, Officer Janine Thompson. Recognizing 20 years of service, Corporal Joel Bachman.
Good job, Joel.
5 more years.
Better man than me.
Recognizing 25 years of service,
Oh, there he is.
Detective Brandon Grass. Brandon asked me to keep my comments to myself if he was to win anything, so I won't
No, go
say
ahead.
anything negative about him. He told me the other day he was taking early retirement.
Wow, I know, 25 years, crazy.
And recognizing 30 years of service to the Bullhead City Police Department, Lori Duggins, Community Services. And Josie Bolt Emmer, Senior Emergency Services Dispatcher.
chiefs here earlier, weren't they?
You still got a few more years. The Commendation Medal. This certificate is presented to members for a conspicuously significant achievement. Will Officer Angel Gomez please come to the stage? Officer Angel Gomez began his career with the Bullhead City Police Department in April of 2021. He brought with him a wealth of training, knowledge, and experience from his prior military and law enforcement service. Officer Gomez has been to the stage several times this morning to be recognized for his award-worthy actions. He is in the spotlight now to be fully recognized for his life-saving efforts during the following 4 events. Officers were recognized earlier in the ceremony for their exemplary performance during an armed and barricaded subject call. Officer Gomez is being recognized for his bravery to get to the citizen that was struck by an errant round. I don't even know what the definition of that is, but okay. I have to look that up later. By an, oh, why did you guys just say that? You're ruining the story. Who wrote this? Harms? All right, so by a stray round while in his home, with the threat of continued gunfire by the armed subject, Officer Gomez remained calm, devised a plan with the assistance of other officers who will be recognized later in this ceremony, was able to quickly get to the injured man, assess his injuries, and apply a tourniquet to prevent him from bleeding out before he could receive advanced medical care. Roughly 6 months later in June, Officer Gomez was dispatched to a weapons call on Rawhide Drive for what would ultimately result in a double homicide. Officer Gomez arrived to find 2 men in the backyard, the attacker with a gunshot wound to the leg and a male victim. He could hear the faint voice of a woman asking for help. The woman had suffered severe injuries and was covered in blood. Officer Gomez had the presence of mind to begin questioning the woman while assessing her injuries and tending to her wounds. His calm demeanor, I'm sure, was a comfort to the woman, and the information that was gathered was invaluable as the woman did not survive the attack. July 1st, 2023, Officer Gomez responded to a call for an unresponsive man outside of a storage facility. Officer Gomez initiated CPR while paramedics gathered their gear. He continued to perform CPR until the man could be placed on a mechanical CPR apparatus. Officer Gomez was previously recognized for his efforts to render aid to a pedestrian victim of a hit and run. Officer Gomez, your actions are honorable and deserving of high praise. There are no words to express the gratitude this award is meant to convey. It is our honor to recognize you for your bravery and service and present you with this commendation medal.
Hey, good job, man.
Will Detective Scott Grigsby please come to the stage? The devastating and deadly effects of fentanyl are evident across the United States. "One pill can kill" is a commonly used slogan to deter the use of fentanyl, but our country is still plagued with addiction and death from this horrible drug. The danger of encountering this deadly drug has made it necessary for law enforcement agencies to implement training on the use of Narcan or similar drugs for the health and safety of our sworn and civilian personnel and community. Detective Scott Grigsby is being recognized today for the exceptional work he has done while assigned to the Vice Narcotics Section. His drive to eradicate narcotics, specifically fentanyl, from our community is noble. Between September 1st, 2022 and August 31st, 2023, Detective Grigsby has been directly and indirectly responsible for the seizure of roughly 65,000 fentanyl pills, all of which were seized in or were in the process of being transported to our community. Detective Grigsby not only devotes his time and energy to combating the fentanyl crisis by seeking out and arresting individuals for selling these deadly drugs in our community, he is also committed to assisting drug users and addicts get the help that they need to stop using these dangerous drugs. On multiple occasions, he has assisted users and addicts with resources and transportation to get them into rehab programs. This shows his dedication and commitment to making a difference by attacking the fentanyl crisis from both sides, by arresting dealers and assisting addicts. Detective Grigsby recently shared his passion for eradicating drugs from our community and knowledge of narcotics investigations by co-instructing a fentanyl investigation class for his peers at the 2023 AZGIA conference in Phoenix, Arizona. Your drive and determination is admirable. Your hard work and dedication have not gone unnoticed. From a grateful community, thank you for all your efforts against the fentanyl crisis. We are pleased to present you with this commendation medal. The Medal of Honor. This award is presented to personnel distinguished by gallant and intrepid action, which above and beyond the call of duty. The action must have been one of personal bravery or self-sacrifice, so conspicuous that it clearly distinguishes the recipient and has involved risk of serious injury or loss of life. Will the following individuals please come to the stage? Sergeant Thomas Canfield, Sergeant Sean Watson, Detective Scott Grigsby, and Officer Angel Gomez. Members of the Bullhead City Police Department responded to an armed and barricaded subject call on January 27, 2023. Initial reports were for a male subject in body armor pointing a firearm at numerous victims in a local RV park. The brief contacts with the armed male confirmed the seriousness of the situation and the potential for things to escalate and the possibility of serious injury to residents and officers due to the location. As feared, the incident progressed, and the suspect fired his weapon towards the officers on scene and surrounding trailers. A 911 distress call was received by one of the park residents who reported he had been struck by a stray bullet. Well, here it says stray, so I'll proof this next year. Sergeant Canfield, Sergeant Watson, Detective Grigsby, and Officer Gomez worked to pinpoint the location of the victim and render medical aid. It was a chaotic scene, and the officers recognized the seriousness of their decision as they would be placing themselves in danger. The path to the man's trailer was right in the line of fire. Upon initial inspection, it appeared that the man had suffered non-life-threatening injuries. Further investigation revealed a second, more serious injury. Shortly after officers arrived, the injured man lost consciousness. Officer Gomez worked quickly to apply a tourniquet, and Officer Grigsby, that'd be Detective Grigsby, started treating the man for shock related to the trauma. Care flight personnel confirmed that the efforts of these officers saved the shooting victim's life. You all went above and beyond the call of duty by putting yourselves in harm's way to render aid and save the life of an innocent victim. Human nature directs us to flee from danger, yet you chose to do the opposite to save a life. Thank you for your strength, bravery, and dedication to the safety of our community and its citizens. Your actions are deserving of profound respect and admiration. They reflect great honor of the Bullhead City Police Department and law enforcement profession. It is an honor to present you these awards. The next award is for the Bullhead City Police Department Employee of the Year. Will Haley Simpson, lead records clerk, please come to the stage? Haley began her career with the Bullhead City Police Department, the first time in February 2012 as a shelter support worker at Animal Control, until she moved to Texas to pursue other interests. She returned as a records clerk in January of 2022 and was promoted to the lead records clerk position in February of 2023. During her first 6 months as lead records clerk, Haley was submerged into leadership. She took on and accomplished a great number of tasks, including updating policies and procedures that mirrored ARS for records, records retention, and public information requests. Time was also devoted to learning and converting to the new RMS and becoming NIBERS? NIBERS? Okay, well, there you go. NIBERS compliant, so congratulations on that. In addition to learning the management side of her new position, she was tasked with assisting an outside agency with an extensive audit of our property and evidence section. Every weapon, all monies, and every drug-related piece of evidence was inventoried. The audit resulted in many recommended changes that Haley was instrumental in implementing that has led to many positive changes in the P&E section. Haley is well organized, willing to learn, and take on any challenge she is faced with. She is positive and treats everyone with the utmost respect. She takes great pride in her work and can be counted on to complete her assignments in a timely manner with professional results. She genuinely cares about her employees and their success and is well liked by her peers. She is an excellent communicator and works closely with her supervisor to keep him informed and ensure things run smoothly in the Support Services Division. Haley has been married to her husband, Sean, for 5 years. Together, they have a dog named Hazel Marie and 2 cats, Winter and Beans. During her free time, she enjoyed, this sounds like a dating app. During Haley's free time, she enjoys paddleboarding, painting, playing D&D,
Nice.
Dungeons and Dragons. Okay. Because she is a nerd, and I did not ad-lib, and absorbing as much information about serial killers and true crime as possible. Thank you for your dedication and professionalism. You have accomplished a lot in the short time you have been here. Thank you for all your hard work. We look forward to what you will accomplish in the future. We are pleased to name you the Bullhead City Police Department Civilian Employee of the Year. Well, as we present the final award, the Bullhead City Police Department Officer of the Year. Will Officer Zachary Madarang. Okay, before I read this, Madarang or Madarang?
Madarang.
Any pronunciations on this? All right. Officer Madarang began his law enforcement career as a public safety dispatcher for the Sierra Vista Police Department, where he served for 3 years. He became a Bullhead City police officer in January of 2015. After graduating from the Western Arizona Law Enforcement Training Academy, Officer Madarang worked as a patrol officer until March of 2018, when he was assigned to the Arizona State Gang Task Force as a GITM officer. Officer Madarang quickly became known for his tenacity and technical expertise in locating gang members and fugitives, demonstrating capability well beyond his years of service. He was well respected for his ability to work through complex incidents and situations and not backing down from the most violent and dangerous gang members. His fellow officers knew that they could count on him to back them up when needed, no matter what the situation. Officer Madarang thrived in his new role and is credited with generating 341 arrests, including 55 gang members, the most of any GITM detective across the state of Arizona during that same period. He utilized confidential sources and techniques to locate and build a case against an individual using a business front to sell large quantities of heroin in Bullhead City. After several months of careful investigation and planning, a multi-location search warrant was served that resulted in the successful arrest and prosecution of the offender, the seizing of thousands of dollars in assets from the business, and the storefront was shut down. The effect of Officer Madarang's efforts had a positive impact in Bullhead City and beyond in the neighboring communities. Officer Madarang is also passionate about community engagement and interaction with youth. He never passes up an opportunity to interact with youth, children, or teens to try and make a connection and a positive influence. Officer Madarang currently serves as the Vice President of the Fraternal Order of Police Lodge Number 50 and enjoys participating in the FOP Santa Sleigh and Shop with a Cop programs, as well as other community events. Officer Madarang returned to patrol after completing his assignment in Gittham in March of 2023, and he hit the ground running. Due to his unique skill set and the knowledge gained from serving in Gittham, Officer Madarang was hand-selected to address the issue involving subjects committing numerous crimes, including aggravated assaults. Within a short period of time, Officer Madarang had compiled all related criminal investigations and obtained a search warrant for which resulted in 2 habitual offenders being taken into custody, providing a safer community for our citizens. Officer Madarang takes a lot of pride in his law enforcement profession and is quick to share his extensive knowledge with his squad mates. Officer Madarang married his high school sweetheart, Ariel, in 2017. They have been married for 6 years. They enjoy traveling, boating, spending time with family and friends, and parenting their 3 dogs. How come we didn't get to name his animals? Your efforts are greatly appreciated by the department and the community. Your work ethic and job performance are commendable. You represent our department with pride and distinction, and we are pleased to name you the Bullhead City Police Department's Police Officer of the Year. Congratulations, Zach. I would now like to ask Robert E. Treves Jr. to the stage.
First, I'd just like to say that, John, you're welcome back next year. Thank you.
Okay, so 1 second.
Actually, wait a minute.
Job, Zach.
If they need more money for anything, if you need the budget for an MC, we'll give you the money.
Thank you, Mr.
One here
Mayor.
for more overtime.
I just want to conclude by saying thank you all again for being here. It's really important to our members that you show up and you support them. I know you do it daily, but to be here in public and recognizing them is vitally important to each member of this department. Again, in today's day and age when there's so negativity out there about police officers, you just all witnessed how our members go out every day and do a fantastic job. Some things extraordinary, and that needs to be commended, and so that's why it's such an honor to be here today. So thank you again for that, and if I can ask Pastor Duke to come back up.
Thank you, Chief Treves. I have often said, and I continue to say it and continue to believe, that we have one of the greatest police departments in the state of Arizona. And I believe that we have been witness to many testimonies to just reinforce what I believe. I, among many others I know, am so thankful for the Bullhead City Police Department and the members that we have serving our community. I just wanted to say that. But let us pray. Lord Jesus, we come once again thanking you for this great day and this time that we have set aside today to honor the men and women of our police department who serve us so faithfully. It is our humble prayer that everyone here today leaves with a greater awareness of our dedication and sacrifice. We also pray that they feel our gratitude and support as they continue to labor in their duties. Now, Father, I pray that you will strengthen them as they continue in their service and sacrifice. I pray that you bless everything that they set their hands to do in service to you and to the people of our community. Father, in this time of lawlessness, let them, through your Spirit, be the wall of protection around us. In this time of chaos, help them show us the way to peace that brings order into our lives and community. In this day of spiritual weakness, let them be the tower of strength that we can look to. Dear God, I pray that your great Spirit goes with them, guides them, and protects them. So, Father, it was with a grateful heart that we close this ceremony, thanking you once again for your divine protection and help, thanking you for your great Spirit that goes with us and never forsakes us. Now, Father, I ask your blessings once again upon these great men and women of our police department. Bless them, keep them, guide them, and protect them. Let us always remember that you are the strong fortress that keeps a people and a city safe. Let us always also remember that you are our only refuge in the trying storms of life. So in all this we give thanks, and we ask your blessings upon our police department and upon our city. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.